Oh my goodness, we're live. Now we're live.
It just got real.
Just got real. So I decided what I'm gonna do for a second. I decided it when I was walking this morning. I'm gonna rant for a little bit. I'm gonna rant because it's called Taking the Reins with Austin Linney, and this is the first time people are gonna see me on my show for my purpose. And I figured it out, Corey.
Hit me.
I really did. I figured out why. I hope. Yeah, we're on YouTube. It's not that you haven't read the books. It's not that you haven't listened to podcasts. It's not that you don't have the MBA degree. It's not that you're not working out. It's not that you're not healthy. It's not that your intentions aren't good. It's none of those things. You know what's killing people these days?
Hit me.
They don't feel seen.
Hmm.
They don't feel seen. They're playing small because their boss talks shit to them. They're playing small because their spouse doesn't support them. They're playing small because the community doesn't give a fuck about their idea. And I'm here to let you know that this show and this person right here sees you. I see what you're good at. I see what you're bad at. I see what you're working on. I see the growth, and I applaud it. And I'm realizing that when it comes to coaching, you know what they have in me? They have a motherfucking cheerleader 100% of the time. And it's exhausting. It's exciting. It's a roller coaster. But damn, it's fun.
I don't want to step on your rant. I have to say this right here. I can confirm all of that stuff, right? As a guy who hired you as my coach, and of course we're like evolving this into like, we want to do a bunch of business things together, yada yada. But like this has been the toughest 3 months in business or anything for me. It's been, it's been nuts, right? And I've had a bunch of moments where I've been super down. Interestingly enough, the only person that ever know about that is probably my wife. But you just keep checking in on me like, how you doing? I'm like, oh, no, I haven't slept. I'm fine. Hitting my head against the wall. And just the energy that you bring when, you reach out for a check-in or just freaking randomly or whatever, it doesn't stop those times that things become, difficult. But it reduces the time that I get back to idea mode probably by an order of magnitude. And that's just money. Like that's just, over a however much amount of time, I feel like that's just gonna print ROI.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it's really interesting. Somebody asked me the other day on a podcast. They said, who is your hero? Like who's somebody you look up to? And I said, me 10 years from now.
Hello.
And ultimately, my hope, right, for anybody that listens to a podcast, anybody that does anything, is looks up to somebody, an Elon Musk or whatever it is, right? You have it. Like you have it. And when the consciousness expands, when the money that you make per month expands, there's no going back. Yeah. When the real estate deal that you do, perfect example, client yesterday, top agent in Central Texas. I mean, this dude is a savage, and he's doing it through rehab. Like he was in rehab last year. Like he's still doing 40 mil by himself. He's a killer. Wow. And I said, what's the highest home you've ever sold? And he was like, I don't know, like 2.75 million. I said, well, why can't you, like Austin's pretty expensive. You can't sell a $10 million home. Well, I mean, I could. Well, okay. So is the goal 4 million home or is the goal $10 million home?
Right.
Okay. Well, the goal is 10 million. Bro, 30 minutes later, after we got off the call, he texted me. He said, my client just called me from Sacramento. He's selling a $40 million piece of property and wants to take the 1031 exchange and put it in a multifamily and wants me to be the agent.
It's like, just hold on. I'm going to need a mic. Drop the mic.
Because he allowed the universe to even wonder and have belief if that was the case.
I'm gonna go back to that I think that the bit about looking up to the person that you're going to be in 10 years. What is it about that person that you admire the most?
his focus. Like his focus is his consistency, because, a lot of my clients tell me all the time, you know, like your consistency is like something that just like baffles me. They're like, dude, it's like, because the consistency, no external forces, no external event, no monetary issue is ever gonna affect that. It's like, here's the thing. I go out, I'm a healthy person, I seek opportunities. And what I've taught my clients and what I've taught myself is that goals are a great marker to make sure that you're on track, but your overall mission. And I'll walk you through a scenario that's very simple. This is the easiest way I can do it to describe to somebody. So we have a sales company. The sales company at the moment sells 5 different products. Each different product is in the business sector of different things: Amazon store, health insurance, life insurance, my coaching services, and some other stuff, right? So they're all different things. So I asked my sales guy, the CEO, who's a client, I said, when you show up to an event, like, when you meet that person, he's selling you, right? Well, what is he selling? Well, I have to find out what Corey needs, and then maybe I'll sell in the Amazon store. Okay. So you have 5 products, and how many opportunities do you have to sell that guy, depending on your context for him? Well, I mean, I have the opportunity. No, you have 1 in 5. You have 1 in 5%. Okay. So what if we change the perspective to, you are a sales guy that seeks opportunity to create wealth for everybody that you come into contact with? How many products do you have to sell to him then? Well, 5. Okay. Well, that changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
So my opportunity for life is, I'm showed up as myself as an opportunity to show up and create impact for everybody that's involved, for my clients, for myself. And that's all predicated on me being healthy, happy, spiritually aligned. And one of the greatest compliments I ever got was, your vision of the future is so clear, it's scary. No wonder you can be consistent. And so when I'm asking people, and what this show's about is taking back control of a world, a society, a day, a life, or whatever, thinking that you don't have control. I think one of the biggest issues I see is that people don't think there's a choice. They think there's a situation, and they're just stuck with it.
Right. Well, it's almost that it comes back to, I think there's a correlation too, and this just sort of occurred to me right now. What you started with, people wanting to be seen. I think there's it sort of echoes with that quiet desperation, and that quiet desperation, I think very often leads into that other thing, right? Thinking that you don't really have an option, and really just translate that as lack of agency. And that agency is a muscle, right? And if you don't exercise it, it gets you take action less and less, and therefore you think there is less actions that you can take less and less, and that's just a downward spiral. And then you're just, searching for meaning at that point at the bottom of a well.
As you and maybe I'm doing this on purpose, so it is what it is.
Good caveat.
There is let's say that you're in a situation as a human. Let's say that you're in a situation. I've been divorced. I was a drug addict, all that stuff. But let's say you're in a situation where every time you turn around to make the decision in your mind, you're working out the scenarios that could happen. Is everything is predicated on the fact of, we're saying, man, I'm going to lose that. I'm going to let that person down. I'm going to, like, all these things are so easily quantifiable. You can see them. You can say, oh yeah, I'm going to lose that amount of money. That person's going to be upset. I'm going to lose this social status. I'm going to lose all that stuff. That what we don't understand by making that decision is we can't not quantify what's unquantifiable, meaning what will happen in the other way. And so we never focus on that. So we only focus on what's going to happen to us when we make the decision. And so understanding that life is unfolding, right? And what I've found for people, right? I've interviewed 700 plus people, and all the people that lost their shit in 2008 and went from, worth 5 million to 0.
Mm-hmm.
What I found out through all these conversations, it wasn't actually the money that hurt them. It was the loss of what it said and who they were in society.
Hmm.
Because
It's
their
just, it
goals
comes down to identity or whatever, right?
because their goals and their dreams were predicated on social status instead of the pure fulfillment and joy of what their core needed. And now that their core and identity is locked in on who they are, and they're giving back to their community, and they're spending time with their family, they're worth 15 times more than they had in the beginning. They're worth 30 million, 40 million. And they're giving more than ever, and they're more in love. And so what I found in my clients is a lot of people that are very successful get to a place where when the money hits the bank account, it doesn't really do anything anymore.
Yeah,
it doesn't really show up anymore. And then if it doesn't register, the greatest line I ever heard, Bobby Axelrod, my favorite fucking show is fucking Billions, and he hits 100 billion or 10 billion. And he goes, I thought it was going to feel different. But he said, all that happened was I got a twinge in my balls for about 5 seconds. And then it was back to normal. Because he was seeking fulfillment. He didn't have fulfillment. And so when you find that fulfillment, you must cultivate it. You must seek more of it. And a lot of the fulfillment that we get in life doesn't make us money. But it allows us to have joy and energy to show up in the other areas of our life to make money.
I mean, that 100% checks out for me, right? The times that I've gone into sort of ludicrous momentum mode, business flow states, coming from a music background, flow states, that was my whole career. I was just chasing a flow state. I'd do like, a gig playing, a bunch of covers, who gives a crap, right? The whole point was to get to those moments where it literally felt like music was flowing through me and I was just the conduit. I had nothing to do with it. Flow states are incredible. And I've experienced that a bunch of times in this new business, NFT, metaverse sort of innovation space, right? Some heady shit. Like that's what I want.
Dude, it makes me a perfect example. I just got off a call with a business partner. He puts together, by the way, I've never written one. He puts together a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there and I'm going, I want to give this guy $10 million. This is the best business plan I've ever seen. And who knew that 6 months ago, we were talking to the city in Oklahoma that he lives in for us to be the management directors for the public transportation sector of the freaking city. And I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about transportation. And he goes, yeah, but do you know about hospitality? Do you know how to treat people? Do you know how to treat your employees? Well, of course I do. Okay, well then you're fine. And I'm sitting to myself. And so the same way I feel about the meta universe, the same way I feel about Dow chains and real estate, the same way I feel about NFTs, I may not know the eventual outcome, but what I do know is the intention is to educate, is to learn, is to be excited, is to try new things. And when did we become a society that doesn't try new things? When did we become people that were playing small? When did we become people that didn't shine their light bright? When did we die with our fucking music inside of us?
Well, here's the thing. I think that looking back at the past for that, I would say there's more people now that are trying more things than there ever have been.
Agreed.
Right? It's just like we look back in history and the only people we see are the Henry Fords because they're the only people worth seeing. Right? He was still a shocking minority. Right? And now we still see a massive, shocking minority of a lot of people that want to. But you think about the number of people that listen to, the number of people that listen to you, the number of people that listen to Gary Vee, right? There is a culture now.
We've raised the consciousness
where people are doing the work, right? Mm-hmm. And again, to some success and some, that doesn't happen overnight, right? Like I studied, freaking Forex trading business for a decade before I accomplished anything that was worth anything, right? Like, nothing going on, and then everything at once. But there's so many more people that are doing that now, and so many more people that can find, I guess, content. Can you imagine doing this, 20 years ago, if I was trying to do something like this? The only thing that anybody was telling me 20, 25 years ago was that, like, I was just wasting my time. Anytime I did anything out of the ordinary, I was just wasting my time for the 10 fucking idiots that I had in my circle or whatever, right? And now you go online, you can find people that are doing way crazier shit than you, and you could hang out on their podcast, and suddenly you're like, wait, I'm not alone, right? And of course, like everybody in the NFT sort of metaverse like our, crazy Web3 environment, like we're all fucking nuts and everyone knows it, right? That's exciting to me because that's creating a community of people that are then doing the work, that are then, at least feeling like, wait a minute, it's okay. And then they find you and your podcast. You're like, wait, we could supercharge this shit.
I love it. And my buddy said something to me. He is one of the most successful guys that I've ever met. He's my mentor. And he said something on one of our podcasts. He said, there's almost enough anxiety in my business for us to be highly successful.
Okay, you have to expand on that.
So he said, look, I said, dude, you're making 500 G's a month right now in your business, and you taught yourself for nothing. And he goes, yeah, but there's always a competitor, or there's always another business, or there's always enough unknowing, or I'm always trying something new where I feel like I'm stepping in deep waters. There's enough anxiety around that it's all going to go away. That's going to keep me pushing my growth more and more and more and more and more. And my big concern with people, I just had a call with a client this morning. His goal is 10,000 a month passive income. And I was like, yeah, and you're 23 years old. I was like, are you going to stop? Are you going to when you get to 10,000 and you make 10,001, are you going to say, nope, I'm good. Right. But we business planned out yesterday and mind mapped out a business that we're starting, right, for consulting. And the framework of this business, because we've already seen it done before, is that we could work 8. And I'm not saying that we're going to be here, guys, so just calm down with the numbers. But what I'm saying is basically the premise of the business is work 8 days a month in this business. And at its peak could be $3 to $4 million. 8 days for the month, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very simple when you look at it. Oh, yeah, I could totally see that. And so how do we get here? Like first of all, how did I feel good about that conversation? How did I say, yeah, sounds plausible? Okay, well, let me take you back to when I was 17. And let me take you back to when an entrepreneurship father of a friend handed me a book. And he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, hey, man, you're kind of different. And I don't think you like this school shit. So you should read this. And he's like, I expect a report in 4 days. And I'm like, what? Give me a report. I hate schoolwork. And I look at the book and it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Nice. And I read that book and I couldn't put it down because my dad was a doctor at the time. And I'm like, okay, mind shift, like everything, assets, cash flow. Okay, I get this. I could do this. And so then there's alcoholism. Then there's drug addiction. Then there's beating myself up, victimhood. Okay, we'll get sober from that. And then I lose 80 pounds. And I get some mentors, and then I lose 30 grand in the business, and then I work private equity, and then I start a podcast, and I get divorced. Like, if you would ask me to map out my life, how you and I are on this fucking call right now, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But the intentionality was I was always going to keep growing. The intentionality was I was always going to get 1% better every day. And the moment that we lose that as people, the moment that we don't continue to push, the moment that I don't continue to push you, the moment that you don't continue to push me, the moment that we think that we've reached our potential is the moment that we don't continue to create and NFTs and all this stuff, and is all this search, right? Here, it's really interesting, right? If you look from a psychological level at society, do you think that's a little odd that NFTs, meta universe, and all these things have exploded when COVID took away community? Like,
I don't think that's weird at all. I mean, the uplift that's what happened. That's literally what happened, right? Mm-hmm. Like we, started the opening that Minecraft server up to people when COVID started. That's when the Sunday, kind of gratitude ritual started or whatever. And that's when more people started coming in. And that's how we learned how to do all the regions. And I knew crypto was going to get mapped into it. And then here's the uplift, right? And that's literally what happened. Everyone got stuck in their house. And that's what made it so sticky. Not only can you, because anybody can hop on a Zoom call, that's easy, right? Mm-hmm. But now you're in a place that, like, it might look blocky for a second, but that goes away really fast. And then you're just building, a mother and a daughter, or, a father and a 8-year-old son that they aren't in the same place, but they get to work on something together. Like that's intense. That's exactly what it was. And I think NFTs and community and the explosion at Discord, it's all I completely agree. Like we got shut in, and so we figured out how to get out.
100%. And
Mars, exactly. Me too.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I used to work in the music business, and like it's amazing the stuff that you get excited about as you get older. Like I love a good office. I love a good I love a good meeting, a good podcast, and it used to be like, let me go play in front of 10,000 people or like an audience, get crazy, and so like you and I were having this conversation with somebody this week about our NFT project, and the thing that really struck me was all this dead material. I'll just use, for lack of a better word, the book that you've already written, the music that you wrote 10 years ago can be rebirthed. We can breathe life into these things. I think that is something that not enough people are talking about.
Yeah. I started thinking this morning about like, because getting into momentum, and for me anyway, and I'm sure you can speak to this, especially 700 podcasts later, right? Like we've been really consistent with this podcast, but I know I could do a lot more. If I mapped it out and sort of if I had a cohesive vision, and of course you just create that, right? I came up with 4 ideas for that this morning. But going back, the idea that I could go back and take an hour and go back to one of our episodes every day and see if there's a clip in there that I could pull out and I can make that into an NFT. Like I could make 150 grand just on that all year, right? On maybe 2 hours a day.
Yeah, I have 2,500 videos, so let's get to work.
Right? Like that, right? Like that's just like we're just sort of data mining our own stuff. And there's a zillion ways to skin that cat, right? But then make some more content and it just never ends, right? And I think as a function of I'm really excited about that. The meeting we had is like just it makes so much sense that people can go back and create sort of historical collector context for the body of work that they've done, but then specialize it because if you have any number of super fans at all, right, there's going to be those people that that are going to pile on and really support that and potentially and hopefully really benefit themselves when 5-10 years down the road they're sitting on a really amazing collectible.
I'll use real estate as a context to understand. So as a wholesaler, you get lists of people that are potential buyers, and a lot of times you have to re-up those lists every 6 months. When COVID happened and the real estate market started taking off, I was hearing from my wholesaler clients that they were going back to list in 2019 and getting contracts. That's never happened before, but the real estate market was on such fire. And so as a content creator or somebody that has a business, what are all the lessons, right? And this is why we're so adamant about this new business that we're building, which is the biggest thing I've ever built in my life. That's on a 100-year time horizon. That's going to have, as my ex-business partner said, about 1,400 businesses with inside of it. He said, "You're out of your fucking mind." I said, "Yeah, I know. Come join." We are going to document everything. I mean, everything. Meetings, paperwork. We're going to release books every year of what we learned as we build the business. We're going to be 100% transparent. And that entire project is going to be, you and I haven't decided on a name yet, but that's going to be an NFT project. And most of those proceeds from that are going to pay for education for kids or schools or whatever. And so by me telling my story, it's going to do many different things. One, I'm going to be able to see my life into it. It's going to be markers of gratitude for me to see how far I've come. It's going to be journeys for other people. There's so many things that are going to come out from me doing something that we're already going to do anyway. And so what's interesting to me is now I've gotten to a place where I think, with my friends, especially the content creators, it's should we just record everything that we do? Every conversation? We might as well. We're already going to do it anyway. And I can't tell you the gold that I've got on phone calls with my mentors that wasn't recorded that I forgot. Or something. And it's I'm getting to a point where I need to make a different podcast. It's called Behind the Vault. And it's just stuff that I hear with my friends. And you're already going to do it anyway.
This is where you find kind of like Gary Vee's, he crushes this, right? I don't know if you can tell, I've been listening to a lot of Gary Vee this week. But he records, all of his meetings going on other people's podcasts, and of course gets to release that as his own, which is super smart. But any clip he has at all. I think he has to have it set up so hey, listen, I'm going to say at least 5 things that are really cool today. You guys have to clip out at least one. Otherwise, you're fucking wasting our time. Right.
Yeah. But and that speaks to, and this is very important for anybody that's hiring anybody, and my same message to you. When you bring somebody on to work for you or work with you, yes, there are step-by-step things that they need to do. But ultimately, what you need to do when you work for somebody else is you need to be in their ecosystem for a while to see the decisions they make, the feelings they give, and the opportunities that are available. And what I mean by that is I don't need my assistant to be an A to B to C. I do. But I also need her to understand the decision that I would make in that moment. Doesn't mean she's the one making the decision, but it helps her over time. Like Alex Ramosi, who's my favorite content guy in the world, when he sets a dinner for his, like a client, like he's meeting a friend or whatever, like they do dinner a bunch and meetings, he never picks the restaurant. He doesn't even know the restaurant he's going to until he sees it on his calendar. The assistant does, but she has a list of 10 restaurants that he likes to go to, and she kind of moves that around. And I'm like, that's just fucking smart. That's a decision he never has to make now. He can focus on business. And so like, that's like when people think I'm crazy, like this, I'm just laying it out there. I'm going to have a bodywork specialist come to the house twice a week. I'm going to have somebody to come stretch me twice a week. I'm going to have somebody cook food and do juices twice a week. I'm going to have somebody shop. Like I'm going to optimize my entire life where I'm only making the decisions that need to be made, that can be made by me. And I save bandwidth for those decisions. Like we're just,
I mean, that's just, you know, it's funny. I was just kidding. Oh, that's just like basic ROI in business. But you know how many people in business don't fucking know that? Right. Mm-hmm. Or that it's because it's really easy to forget it. Right. Especially if you have a sort of bent towards micromanaging, which luckily I've never had. Because I love being surrounded by people that are way smarter than me, and I feel like they should do their shit, and they do. But yeah, Elon Musk actually had a interview by the TED Foundation last week, and one of the things he was saying is that it's gotten to the point now where, and he was basically saying the same thing. Like I, don't have houses, I don't have time to do anything except for, make really high quality decisions around Tesla, because Tesla's at the point now where every minute of good thinking, high quality thinking around Tesla will net about $1 million in value at a minimum. Like what? Like that's, and again, like it makes sense. He's got the visibility. And
so if you're not working out, you're stressed, you're not eating right, you're going to make a decision. What did I tell you? By the way, my dad loved it really much. So I said, you're allowed to be angry, but you're not allowed to make an angry decision. And it's one of those things where, we have to, when we're having a bad week or we're having a string of bad choices, like take a pause and go, did I make those decisions based off my ego? Did I make them because I was tired? Did I make it? Like, give yourself permission to not make the decision. Like, I had this very successful business guy who just had a baby. I just had him on the podcast like 7 days after he had a baby. I was like, dude, let's cancel. He's like, no, dude, let's do it. He's like, I'm in a weird space right now. And the last 10 minutes of the podcast, he goes into a thing of saying, I spent my whole life, I grew up with nothing, very underprivileged, went to prison a couple times, and now he's very successful. He said, I grew up, and he said, I wanted to be known. He goes, I'll just call it what it is. He goes, I wanted to be known by everybody. I wanted to have a YouTube channel. I wanted to have everything. And he goes, as I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my daughter, and he said, how powerful would it be to be known by a few? But those few have my respect. Those few they listen. I give love to them. I support them. And he goes, I'm not saying that I'm not going to go for it. I'm just saying that it's there. And I think, you have to ask yourself a simple question. What is it that you do every day? And do you actually get value from it for yourself? Because if it's something that you believe in, then other people can cling on to that belief and buy into your vision. But if you're building it to win the lottery, if you're building it to deceive other people, if you're building it to get something out of it, like it's not going to end good for you.
Yeah, it's inevitable that it won't. And it's that simple shift in mindset. We sort of had a conversation about this yesterday with like some of the challenges that, I'm sort of staring in the face of some interesting dilemmas. And I thought about it a lot, yesterday and this morning, about those people. I mean, Andre is one of my favorite examples of that, right? TC, I could, kind of take off, maybe 20, 30 people that I think are straight up, magic. And they know me, and they, are going to understand regardless of what works or what doesn't work, or what, is a smashing success or what fails or whatever. And, I can just move forward with that. Right. Like that. And that's like the kind of people that, are going to be there when things are not at their best. And then the thing is, like, so I'm not going to quit. I'm going to be doing crazy shit till the cows come home, because it's, chasing the flow states. Right. But how grateful am I that, the people that are in my inner circle that genuinely do see me are fucking badasses. Like that. What? Like, to your point, if you'd asked me like 2 years ago, if that would be the case, like, hadn't played a gig in a couple months, and then the pandemic hit, right? Like, nope, right? It would have been maybe a couple. I shouldn't lie. There was a few people that are awesome, but now it's just like, what the hell?
You want to, as the saying goes, sometimes you have to stop watering the plant next to you to realize how long you were watering a weed. And if you really want to see who your friends are, get sober. If you really want to, I lost everybody. Everybody. Not only did I lose everybody, I got aggressively angry at me too. Who the fuck do you think you are? You're going to go be a podcast host? You're a fucking loser. You'll always be a drunk. Go fuck yourself.
Wow.
You're not a coach. You're going to coach people? You're terrible. How dare you? DMs all the time. About a year in.
Hey, you want to give me some of those numbers?
Yeah, about a year in. Hey, man, I really love same people. Hey, man, I really love what you're doing. Keep it up. On year 2, hey, man, could I get 5 minutes of your time? I'd really love some advice.
By the way, that text and send
by the way, these were my bosses. So these are people farther ahead, whatever the fuck that means, in life. And what's interesting is they champion you, or they ridicule you when you start. They pay attention in the middle, and then they start asking advice at the end. And what's really interesting is, let's say you walk up to me 2 months ago in the grocery store and you say, Austin, what's the secret to be successful? I tell you the same thing I've been saying on every podcast. And then 15 years from now, we'll be hanging out on our sailboat on our island, and I'll be saying, how are you successful? And I've been saying the same thing for 15 years. It ain't changed. It's that you don't want to do the work. So here's what happened to me. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a good friend, and I changed my definition for myself for success. Okay. It's the only thing that will ever matter to me when it comes to success ever. And this is it. I will be successful when every time I leave the room, people are better for it. That's the only thing that I deem success for me for the next 60, 50 years of my life.
And it takes that. You can always tell, too, the difference between the people that are in business, and goals are great. I've got them, right? But the people that are in business that only see their goal and will slap a good face on it and, be friendly and act like it's service first until that service first attitude can be thrown out the window for another 0.5% of ROI, apropos of nothing. But to remind oneself, like in your case, and it's definitely something that, I think about, but could pattern better by adopting what you just said, like that service first mentality, right? You can spot the people a mile away that are like that because they do it constantly. Every decision flows from that. The way they work in business flows from that. And it works. This really, really works, right? Yeah, that's good cake.
So what is it now in your life? There you go. That's for you. That ain't me. That's for you.
I don't know. Steve might be watching you. You got a freaking stuff going on.
So here's my favorite quote I heard this morning from Simon Banks. Boom.
This is the way.
This is the way. So here's what I'm going to ask. This is my question I'm going to ask every time I have a guest on. I decided it. I've been sitting on it. What at this current moment is lighting Corey's soul on fire?
The first thing that comes to mind is opportunity and creativity, which sounds generic, but it's not. The first sort of concrete thing or that people could probably grab onto is look at my Twitter feed or the Uplift World Twitter feed and look at just the shit that's getting built on our platform. That's not us. That's other people. Building amazing things and taking the pieces off the shelf that we've laid down and creating hotels or NFT games or galleries or right. But I think taking a step backwards from that, all the parts in Web3 that are just starting to be discovered or invented every day, all of those parts can be taken off the shelf and get turned into $10 million businesses every other month, right? Like just since we started talking, how many $10 million ideas have we fleshed out? Not even mentioned. Like stuff that we were like, yep, no, that'll work. Yep, no, that'll work. Like that's like, how does that not get you up early in the morning? Right? I mean, because it's not going to be like that forever. It just won't, right? I mean, we're sitting at the beginning of the internet. It's like 1992. We know exactly what's happening. Adoption is going to go, probably 100%, if not more, faster than the adoption of the internet. And we're still sitting at the beginning of that. Like all world economics is going to get translated into Web3. All of it. Just pick a lane and fucking, how does that not set you on fire? Like, unless you just like gardening, that could be your thing, right? But gardening's going to be NFT soon too. So there you go.
You know what my buddy said to me? I just did their podcast in Richmond, Virginia. He said, if you ever are a person that lacks the skill of patience, start a garden. He said, it's one of those things where what I think is super exciting is just that the barrier to entry into business is like nothing these days. Like literally you could have the idea on Monday at 9:00. You could have the business LLC by 6:00 that night. You could have an investor and you could execute on the plan like tomorrow. And what's interesting about this thing is you can read the business books, you can do all these things, but until you get your mind right, and what I mean by until you learn how to think about emotions and philosophies, like I'm going to give you a couple books. You could just read these books forever and just basically take everything you want, like Think and Grow Rich, Slight Edge, Atomic Habits, Outwitting the Devil, and $100 Million Offers. Like literally, you could take those 4 books and build $100 million business, but that's not what we do. I like to read books. I just like to catch up on everything. But we go out and read 100 books a year. And it's like, yeah, but like if you really look at like some of those books, like all the principles are exactly the same. So what is it that you're seeking, right? And I want to ask a serious question. Have you read books and thought, oh, this is just confirming what I already knew? Like,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I think so. So what that tells me is that little voice inside your head, that little gut, is that you're probably smarter than you think. You're probably a better business person than you think. You're probably, a good entrepreneur more than you think. So really, those books are just a confirmation of what we already know inside.
right.
But start listening to the gut more.
Well, and this is where, I mean, dude, I almost put 10 grand into Bitcoin when it was $200. So like I've been learning this lesson the hard way for a long time. And I would be lying if I said I was perfect at it. One of the things that I try to leave with people, and I'm definitely cultivating in myself, is that, ideas are dog shit. Execution is everything, right? Like for real, ideas are dog shit. Execution is everything, especially now. Everyone's going to come up with a million awesome ideas. We do it all the time. The thing is, the distance between an idea and action has to be reduced down to as few milliseconds as possible, right? Not an hour, not like wait for 5 days, not like, oh, maybe the market's going to be different. Yeah, the market's going to be worse. Every second from here on in for the next 10 years, the market will be worse than it was a minute ago, right? It's right now. This is where all the things going to happen. And the thing is like, oh, well, we have to do it perfectly the first time. No, you fucking don't. Fail fast, right? Like that. Like the number of people that tell me they have an amazing business idea and then immediately start making the 50,000 point plan. I'm like, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to fail because your idea sucks. You're going to fail because you're never going to take action on this, right? You're going to think, oh, I have to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to use off the shelf parts. I'm not going to, do whatever it takes to get started. And I say this a lot, and maybe people are weirded out by it, but when you take action, providence moves also. And I'm not even a religious person. But the reason why I say it that way is like when you take action, it sets in motion so much potential in the universe. And not even as like a woo-woo kind of thing. It's just a situation where people will see you move, right? And half of this or more is about belief at all times. And if people see you take action and move, well, suddenly it's that much more real, right? Now people want to come and help. They want to take a look at what you're doing. Yeah. Just fucking move.
When I was in my 20s, I spent most of my 20s saying, I have a great idea. I don't understand why anybody doesn't believe in me or why people don't invest in me. And after beating my head up against the wall for 4 years, I finally came to the conclusion, nobody's going to believe in you until they start seeing you move your feet. And so I just went out and figured it out myself. I filled out a real estate contract by myself without ever done it before. I bought a house way under market value. I figured we'd find a place, got the money, all these things, right? And in the last 2 weeks, I've raised over $300K for $2 million flips in the Smokies that are going to be Airbnbs. And I did it not with 17 phone calls. I did it with 2. And it took, I was telling my client this morning, we negotiated the percentages of a $1 million property in the grocery store yesterday in 3 minutes. I went and said, my boy, I said, look, dude, it's my boy. I said, hey, look, we're in the business of doing things simple. I don't want to waste your time. You're busy. I'm busy. He's like, let's just be men. Let's hash this out. And we had boom, boom. What do you want? There you go. Blah, 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 blah. You sound good. Sound good. Sound good. Okay, good. Okay, we're good. Bye. Like, and because I've done so many things before that, it's really easy. But I say that all to say, like, stop trying to worry about what you're going to get out of it and just go do the thing. And then once you have the leverage in the situation, then you can start bringing down the percentage. You can start doing the thing. Because perception is reality. And so the more properties we put up on our fund, no matter how much percentage we have of it, is beneficial for the fund. It gets us more money. It gets us more attention. Because what I realized is we're not a short-term rental company or a fund. We're a marketing company.
It's funny. In the last week, and thinking about marketing or content, I think it's kind of the same. but any company. I think it's actually, again, I went in a little hard on Gary Vee this week. He said exactly as much. Like whatever business you're in, if you're not calling yourself a content creation business, then you're fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
I mean, you've got that so far down, it's not even funny. Obviously, we've moved in that same direction, right?
He was on a call. He was on a call 3 years ago. I was still drinking. I was not in a great place. I was listening to him at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever you want to call it. He was on a live. And I said, I've been wanting to think about doing a podcast for 2 years and I never started it. And that was I put that in the comments. And he goes, well, maybe Austin Linney, this is Gary Vee. He said, maybe Austin Linney, 5 years from now, I'll wake up and I'll be on his fucking podcast. And that's my hope. That's what makes me happy. And that literally the next day I started a podcast. And it was like I don't know if he's going to be on the podcast. I don't give a shit. But what I'm saying is like,
I'd put money. I'd place a small bet on that right now.
But what I'm saying is that like, and it was him and then a mentor, right? I've told you, I think I've told you this story before, but I want to share it again because it's my premiere and it changed my life. There was this guy, one of the most successful real estate people I've ever met in my life. He was on a private call. And 5 seconds into the call, I'm like, dude, that guy's my vibe. I'm like, this guy is my vibe. He's doing 500 transactions a year with no marketing, flipping 15 houses at the same time, running a $40 million brokerage with one assistant, no office, and just slays, right? And I'm like, I got to meet this fucking guy. I got to meet this fucking guy. I'm going to tell you the whole story. This is so good. So I said, hey, man, I DM'd him. I said, hey, man, I want to come out to Arizona. I want to see how you run all this stuff and still keep sane. Sounds good, man. So, and he goes, wait, this is August. Hey, man, I can't do it. I'm busy this month. Okay. I checked back in another 15 days. Hey, I can't do it. I'm busy this month. This goes on for like 5 months. And I said, okay. I see what the game here. And so it was December 9th on my birthday. And I bought a plane ticket on January 6th for $275. I bought it. And I sent him a text and I said, I'll be there on January 6th. I'll see you at the gym at 5 a.m. Deal with it. And he was like, okay, sounds good. I'll see you at the gym. Let's ride the day with me. So I fly in and I said, how can I be something special? So I scour his Instagram and I'm like, what is this guy really like? He's already rich. And I knew that he loved Cadillacs. So what I did is I rented for the day a 1966 Cadillac DeVille on 20s and suicide doors, like decked out like you've never seen before. We went to the gym. I went back to my hotel and I picked up the Cadillac and I met him at his office. And when I drove up, he goes, whose is this? I said, well, it's yours for the day. Enjoy. We're going to drive to your job sites. He starts crying. And he's like over the moon. And we get in the car and we're driving to his first job site. And he says, hey, why did you do this? And I said, because when I leave here today, I want you to know that Austin fucking Linney was here. And I created an experience and an opportunity for him to feel even more appreciative. How many guys want to spend the day with him? I took it seriously. Mm-hmm. And so we go around to all his jobs and I see the way that he talks to his people and everything. And then it's about 4:00 and we're done with seeing the properties and we're driving in the car down Gilbert, Arizona. I remember it like it was yesterday. And he says, hey, man, since 5 a.m. this morning, you've given me 20 different business ideas. You're fucking excited about life. You're so pumped. He's like, man, it's amazing. You got all these ideas and everything's great. But he says, what would be even better? He said, you know what would be awesome? Is if for 6 months, I didn't hear about what the fuck you were going to do. And I just looked up one day and I was like, damn, that motherfucker did it. Mm-hmm. And it was like, man, I just stopped in my tracks. And then we had like an hour conversation, like a real, like I cried, like, hey man, you're not happy. Like your marriage is shit. You're in debt. You're lying to yourself. You're talking about this big game. Are you really fucking doing it? And just ripped me. I mean, just cracked me in half, just destroyed me. Right. And that day changed my life forever because that was the moment that I stopped talking about what I was going to do. And I just started doing what I was going to do. And that's been my motto for the rest of my life. And I can pinpoint that $500 that I spent to go down there for 25 hours. That was like changed my my entire life. And the question is when those opportunities, did you create an opportunity? And what I tell everybody that comes to work for me, man, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me a job. No. I didn't give you a job. You created an opportunity by your consistency of who you are as a person and the skills and the value you've given to me. Now it's up to you to continue to earn that opportunity every day.
Yeah, it's such a different change in mindset. Now, granted, like I haven't had a job in a real long time, but I can see how it would be really natural for that muscle of taking action for yourself, and therefore, increasing your own agency over and over and over again would just dwindle. Because you don't work for you; you work for somebody else, right? You take orders. Like how expensive is that for your long-term capacity to think for yourself, to be building something for yourself? I mean, frankly, I don't know. I haven't worked for anyone in about 20 years, so I have no idea. Seems like a bad idea. The no job gang. Yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I'm just an absolutely terrible employee at this point.
Dude, I've said literally the same thing. Like I work really terribly for other people.
And it's not that I don't want to do good. It's just that I can't do good for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it just the incentives are wrong, right? Like I don't know. Like sometimes I wonder. Like I was talking to Nefty for a while, and we talked months ago about like this is what I'm doing now is stressful enough that every once in a while I just want to hop on a bike and fucking be an Uber Eats delivery boy.
Yeah.
And now, granted, like I haven't thought about that since, but for a day, it seemed like it would be something that would be really nice just to fucking not think anymore and get in shape. But like, imagine working for like a guy like Jose or Juan from Nefty, right? Like, I'm pretty sure I could find something to do on their team. But at the same time, like the only reason why they would bring me on is they're like, okay, here's the goal, go make that happen. I'm like, okay, cool, right? And I just like, I just want that for everybody. And now, granted, like some people don't want to exercise that level of agency, right? Like it's not like the thing that they do 8 hours a day. They don't, well, I shouldn't say that. Like I would want to be. I can't even process. I was gonna say they don't want to be passionate about it, but like I can't process that. It doesn't make any sense to me, right? Looking at the world that we live in, I have to assume that a good percentage of people just want everything outside of that 8 hour window. But what a shame, right? Like the percentage of the days that they're going to spend on this earth not getting to feel any flow state or grind. So this is the thing about like grinding on anything to the point where you get good enough at it that you get to achieve some flow states. Most of that's just fucking work. And it looks like insane work to most people from the outside. But I think once you hit even one, I don't think there's any going back.
And it's weird because like, man, dude, and this is about to be so like serious. Dude, sometimes after a nice workout, a good 3 hour hardcore deep work session on a Saturday, there's nothing better, dude. Because you're just like, man, this is like a choice, man. This is my choice, But here's the deal. There's also a lot of people that would love to be number 3, number 4 in you and I's company, and they have a boss that gives a shit, and they don't want to. And I'm totally okay with that too. It's all right. Everything can be obtained. So it's amazing. So man, I can't thank you enough, dude. We crushed it. We were in flow. Is there anything you want to leave the group with, the audience?
Tell me those books again. I think you said Slight Edge, Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich I've read, but I'll definitely.
If you have not read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, it will literally shape your entire universe. Dude, now here's the deal. Okay, you have to listen to it on Audible.
Okay.
First, and then read it. But let me explain to you something about this book. This book was written somewhere in the 1930s. It was so fucking controversial. They locked it in a fucking lockbox for 70 years. It didn't come out till he died and his wife died, because he literally spends the entire book having a make-believe conversation with the devil. And he talks about society and drifting. It's mind-shifting. Like it will change so many things in your life. I've read it like 4 times.
All right.
Now, $100 Million Offer is one of the best business books I've ever read.
Okay.
Which is like free on Amazon.
Really?
Which is insane. Yeah, he's a killer.
Right now.
That was an amazing one. There's a couple books I revisit over and over again. Russell Brunson's books, even though I don't have a ClickFunnels, has taught me how to do business, how to tell my story, how to walk traffic. There's been so many great books. Maybe it wasn't make believe. Maybe he really was having that conversation. It's that's totally possible. But yeah, it was an amazing book. Anything from Napoleon Hill is my favorite. Jim Rome's got some good stuff. So yeah, I mean, any of that stuff is just my jam.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you were saying that, okay, so Slight Edge, Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil, $100 Million Offer.
Richest Man in Babylon's amazing too.
Oh, I haven't actually read that one. That's cool.
Yeah, it's great book.
The audiobook that I have gone back to the most is Anything You Want by Derek Sivers.
Yes.
It basically talks about like the really key lessons that he learned creating CD Baby. It's just gold.
Dude,
it's gold.
It's gold. He's like, man, everybody was telling me I need all these pricing structures. And he was like, I had 2 prices. We're good to go.
Yeah. And only ever, right? Like that was just like, no, that's just all we'll do, right? I think they like it only changed after he was long gone or whatever. But yeah, it's just Book of the 5 Rings. I haven't read that. Thanks.
I haven't read that either. Thank you. Well, guys, I really appreciate this. We're going to be bringing you some content like this. I'm going to bring some crazy guests in from my network.
Who's next?
Dropping some bombs. I have no idea. I'll figure it out. But we'll probably do it Tuesday or Wednesday next week. What I'm really excited bringing a bunch of guests that probably typically wouldn't be in this space. Like some big Airbnb guys, some big multifamily people, just to kind of expand the consciousness, marketing, business, so many different things. So it's going to be really cool. I really appreciate it, everybody, for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, hold on. I just suddenly realized that like interspersed, there's like probably 10 or 20 project runners that I've had on this show that need to watch your show.
All right, love it.
So yeah, I've got a target list for next week. So when you find out, just let me know.
I'm ready.
Drop a little.
I'm ready. Drop me a list.
Nudge.
Drop me a list. I'm ready. We're gonna do it Tuesday.
Cheers.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
Austin.
See ya.